not their usual thank you. This is a deep thank you. Just to say a few words why the British Council is supporting this event, because Beirut Design Week is happening, and we thought it's a great opportunity to do one extra day, because everyone's in town, simply. So really it's a new model about what I would love to call artists' friendships, is strengthening the fact that the dynamic of what people bring together is their common interest. Why regional? Really regional because this is a new way of working for the British Council, and because it gives us the strength in terms of resources to be able to create really heavy track records where we can scale up our work. So the key word here is scaling up, and this event comes as part of scaling up. We have those leaders around the region in 3 labs, laboratory innovation laboratories. We did one in Beirut, one in Cairo, and one in Dubai. And this proposal came from the last one, from the one in Dubai. So people worked in group, participants worked in group, and they brought ideas. One of those is called Ultranational. The team of Ultranational are still putting it together, but everyone was here and we wanted to listen to the Ultranational team proposal of wanting to do this one-day roundtable. We wanted to make sure that people around the table, they are really from similar profiles, and we didn't choose emerging artists. We have chosen people who already achieved, established. You have your own success stories that are echoing around the region, and that's why we wanted really to bring a high caliber to think about common issues on design. They are the ones leading on it. Also, I want to thank the Blue House, and not the thank yous later, but so we want also Badia's thoughts and ideas and dreams on the stage.
Thank you to the Trust from the British Council for this. We really appreciate it. And that trust also from the No Brand Holdings and Badia, and for his generosity as our sponsor. Because it's such a high caliber team, the people recognise the potential, I think, that today brings to us. So the format is really, really simple. We've got 4 questions. What is it about design identity that you think you can cover in this? I also want to make sure that by the end of today, we've got a set of recommendations, clear messages, things that we agree need doing in the region, and that for which there is commitment around the table to do something about them. You're invited here because we are the doers. We are the people that make stuff happen. I'll tell you what the 4 questions are, so you know the route for the day. Question number 1. Why does it matter to foster the development of a contemporary Middle Eastern design aesthetic, design identity, which is distinctively different? Who are the examples of creatives who are intuitively already developing this stuff? And what is it about those examples that creates distance or creates separation from their Western colleagues? What would it take to support and further encourage the development of this distinctive Middle Eastern design identity? How can we leverage governments, NGOs and other forms of support to help take that work forward? Why would it matter to have a stronger design identity?
I think we all sort of notice living in the region how much talent there is bubbling underneath the surface, and if it just has the right conduit to come out and express itself in the right way, the potential is vast. Just understanding that potential, is our duty to realize it.
What is the purpose of imitating or reproducing something that is already there?
I think, for me personally, the way I see it is we see so much identity in so many products, even big brands from Asia, from Africa, and we wonder, where do we fit in that? It's because everybody else is making the money out of all these different cultures and identities, and people are buying it from all over the world. Then I think, the potential is there for us to identify what it is and make it big and huge. Because in the end of the day, if we wait, big brands will take what we would consider of something that reflects us and will make the money out of it. They will not wait.
What we actually mean by, a design identity, because that is something that could vary a lot in definition. When you talk about Scandinavian design, for example, it's something that is just clear from the essence of whatever is made due to its really long culture and history that has come about. Whereas you would find like what would be considered, some sort of Arab identity is a lot based on maybe Arab geometric forms that have become simplified to look more like, the modern Scandinavian or Japanese style. So, and then what happens in fashion is completely different from what happens in product or furniture or lighting. So, these are all very vast things. And when it comes to like graphics, for example, and communication, this also is really different. I'd like to ask people here further on about this identity issue. Is it a nationalistic identity? Is it a MENA region identity? What kind of an identity is it that we're talking about so that we all know what page you're on?
What do we want our identity to relate to? Is it a community of designers? Is it a way of thinking? Is it a way of producing? And is it the geometrical shapes, the repeated geometrical shape, the Islamic art, or what is it? What is it?
You can see that identity or design in general, without related with the place, it's basically identity is related to a group of people that they live in certain space, okay, and they are trying to make their life more simple through those designs that they are making to serve their needs, like starting from tools or furniture or whatever you name it, or the things that they wear. So in general, identity it's to define or not to define, because recently it's hard to say this is Western or this is Middle East or this is from China or whatever, because it's the same concept of design. It's just different when it comes with the material, for instance. That's what make it more with a bigger scale when you're thinking about it. But basically, chair is a chair, whatever. So you don't need it to give it a space, but it's when you come into it, it's like you feel satisfied about those kind of small details.
Sure.
And the language that he used inside the space, it's readable, And this is what's meant. Yeah. So he gives it in his own identity, so it's different than the other places.
I think there's also two different sides to this coin, because there's this one thing of identity being like a selling point. So one point of view saying, yeah, I need to fit in their identity so that this person who's just buying a chair, he could have an excuse to say this is like an Arab chair because there's some geometric form, so this is a way to sell something. Whereas there's the other side of the coin, this identity issue, which is this the fuel inside me that makes me identify with what I produce, and therefore, I have built it as a culture altogether, regardless of what I'm selling.
It has its own identity because of the use. The use of the space here, it's matching the purpose of it. So that's when it has its own identity. The same idea can be in Germany, in Berlin, for instance. But it's different identity because it's different use. And this is where identity goes to a place, like a personality. It's the same person. You can be the same person, even if you are living in Norway or in the United States. But this is your identity. This is who you are.
It enables you to relate.
Yes, like
to
the use of
the
this
stuff and people and spaces around you.
Yeah.
Because you have a clarity of who you are, and therefore you have a clarity of how you relate to different things around you. So, going back to your question of what level are we talking on, I think this is not about the brand and marketing end, but it's about your latter point and the point that you're making about the broader issue of how one relates. And I think there's also a question in there that comes up that's to do with the economic and political importance of this. Some of the conversations that we've had in Dubai and some of the stuff that Sonia's been looking at about the frustration of feeling like some of that Western identity is so dominant and yet difficult to relate to, and it has been assimilated, used, etc., but it doesn't fit well and yet there's a frustration about, well, if it's not that, then what is it?
I think it's related more about the society use. For instance,
Okay.
if you are buying a coat, like when we go to the fashion, for instance, in Arab world, for instance, most of them they are buying their stuff from Europe. But the way of they using it, they're using it in Arabic way. So for instance, mini skirt goes over the jeans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is the identity. They took it from Europe. That's why I don't believe in such a thing called Western design or Eastern design. It's always that design is good. As long as design is good, it is a design. And then the way of using it, this is the how it's measured. Like for instance, nobody in Saudi Arabia will buy. Okay, they buying like champagne glasses, but they are putting a tea on it, for instance, or milk. So it's this nice design for the cup, but the different hues gives it the identity. So it's really more about society use of the something that design.
I think what you're talking about is adaptation.
Design, yeah, adaptation,
Yes, something like
interpretation.
No, but adaptation is not identity.
It's design interpretation. It's not design identity.
I like this. This is what's in the market. I take it. I use it like I want because there is no
Other solution.
other solution.
And when we create another solution, and I'm going to give the example of Rabia Z. When Rabia Z creates a modest woman solution, the modest woman finds it expensive to Zara because Zara she can layer and wear. So Rabia Z, who's actually creating a proper modest solution, gets killed in the bargain and her identity doesn't grow. So there are challenges when you just do design interpretation versus design creation.
I think Samir started putting his finger on this, and I think it's an issue that is the architecture in the Gulf in general. I don't want to sound offending to anyone. The issue that I have is this architecture where you see this glass building, and then because we wanted to turn into an Islamic area, so we add a musharrabiyya over there, and then we top it with a dome. And I think it becomes a copy-paste solution that is not answering to the needs and not adapted to the culture.
That is so true, but I think that is mainly because we want to quickly make something ours and not theirs. And this was a solution, and this is why it was adapted and created and done that way. And on the other hand, how many designers are there? It only started within, like, really for us to see them visibly in the past 5 years. So, because it is young with issues related to identity, and because, you know, in the past it wasn't the identity, it was going the other direction and becoming or buying what's in the West directly and becoming that was there. It's only now that we see, yes, that adaptation, that sticking on exists, but it's in process, because it's in process of developing and reaching the point where we will have experts in the field who really can adapt and create something that relates to our identity.
As a designer, I can speak for myself that I fell into that trap when I started. I knew straight away that I had to sell abroad, and that was my aim. I first said I want to export. If I want to create a brand, I don't want to sell locally. My aim is to go and sell in other countries. Truly from, I mean, I was struggling as if I was standing in front of someone else and trying to figure out what would this other person, rather than, you know, being true to who you are and what you want to.
Innovation is a messy process. We need to find a way of getting acceptance. But we do have to make the top people understand what innovation and design means.
That's why it cannot be taken only by the umbrella of government.
No, it doesn't. It has to be absolutely away from government.
Also small NGOs that aren't for design, but are for
Support.
employment or
Yes.
gender or whatever.
They make great
Yeah,
friends,
they
yeah?
make,
They make great friends.
So a mother and a father did not allow their daughter to go do fashion. A mother and father did not allow their daughter to do jewelry design.
Yeah.
You know, hope through creating, you know, a voice up here that everybody can hear, you know, for all these different Arab countries. We can take good and bad examples and benchmark it for them. That is mainly because they did not engage with understanding. No, the society, they did not engage. To build that, you need to first educate. To have a council in each Arabic country or wherever within the
They
region
collaborate. They collaborate very well.
would be a tough push to happen in reality. If we're looking at short term, maybe we're looking at least having a council that represents
That's all.
in general all these countries, and then this council would help each country build its council and show the importance of it. Because in the Arab world, to be honest, I do not feel they understand grants. They do not understand there are councils that exist. No.
She's
I'm
bringing up a very good
I'm
point.
talking in general. You know, oh yes, they don't. When you know, once I was talking to some of the high-profile clients, and I told them I wish there were grants to support designers. They go, no, something that is not done in Europe. Oh, not in a million years we would do. We want the people to be independent, and I look at them like that. The structure of pushing design needs to have more than one different direction. Council is one, grants within different specializations.
A council gets you industry status. If you're not going to get an industry status, you're not going to be able to go to the bank, you're not going to be able to go to a venture capitalist, you're not being able to go anywhere. Industry status is extremely critical because that's how the bank will give you a loan. That's how you get a letter of intent. That's how you can go and get your funding. That's how you get your investments.
Design aesthetic. And the things that people have come up with so far is that there are some fundamentals in here. It needs to be design that meets a local need and that fits the market and that functions. There's a need for raising awareness about the local designers, and part of that goes with it is the packaging and branding so that those products can compete against the stuff that's being imported.
There's something about, educating, creating awareness about not being so brand oriented as an Americanized in that sense, because that's a really big problem that we have here too in the Middle East.
Okay, so raising awareness about alternative patterns of consumption.
And then the rise awareness about, the society about the added value of local designers and local products.
I see it when it comes to product design. I see, seeing money at the end of the day is one, but also having the passion to enter into that sort of community, or I live in that community. So I see a lot of non-Arabs do things for Arabs better sometimes than Arabs, and I think that is because they look out of the, they're coming from out of this box and they look into it and they see potential that we don't see because we live in that box. Some of the really brilliant examples were not made by Arabs.
In Oman, we have a very strong cultural identity, and it reflects on everything in the architecture and the designs and all of this. Like when the Royal Opera House opened in 2010, it was like everyone's talking about the architecture because it's so reflecting Oman. And our policies are aiming for that. Like we could see even fashion designers, they all come up with those designs, but you could see something Omani in it.
Sort of language.
Yeah.
A design language where there are different dialects in it in different places or a different emphasis that absolutely has a connection to the use and function. I agree with you, but also I think this point about the kind of point of change. So in the early years, there is plenty of borrowing and adapting and using it because it's there, but there's a point of change when you have enough confidence, voice, whatever the heck it is, where it shifts noticeably into something that is much more built from here rather than brought in and adapted. Am I being?
Yeah. I also feel that it is that differentiator which is critical to make that difference between going from a $4 economy to a $40 economy. One is the emotional, one is the brand. One is this unique signature that it has. One is the logistics and the other is solution. It's something that gives me a solution for my lifestyle, my environment, my issues. The world comes to us and only uses us as outsourced spaces or bases where they sell. And or maybe like she rightly said, that our signature, our things are being better created there.
A simple, quick example in the Emirates. I lived between a period where my mother wore a head abaya, which I still see here on the roads with, I think, some Iraqi women still wearing them, to a period where I said I was dreading wearing that abaya, and when it came time for me to wear a abaya, the Saudi shoulder abaya has, come up. So I lived between two periods where I was just dreading. So that in itself is the adaptation that we're talking about. It's creating something that is still us, we're comfortable in it, but in the same time, practical for the way we live.
But it's only natural. I mean, identity is not discrete. I mean, cultural identity, design identity. So it's very difficult to say that this is a very discrete identity. It's always how you adapt it, how you modify it. It's just, there's a fine balance between being referential or, for example, copying or imitating versus taking and adapting it to yourself and mixing it in a way which it becomes something new, the way that it's been mixed. If you look at American culture, it's purely a mix of Irish and Italian and Greek, and it's all been borrowed, but the way that they've adapted it, it becomes something new. But it is, it's how you adapt it.
Studying the consumer is important as well. I mean, a Lebanese consumer would not want to wear a Lebanese product.
Let me add you something. For example, let's see for the most successful Arab designers, and let's see if their products are somehow identified as Arabs. I was thinking about three people: Zaha Hadid in architecture, Rashid in product design, and Elisa in fashion. None of these three can easily identify as an Arab design. I think good designer can put his own identity wherever he is and from where he was. And when he's working, she has her own identity. It becomes a brand. Here we have a conflict between brand and identity.
So maybe that is something that has been connected to her life, to her past, and she's passionate about.
Well, if somebody out there who suddenly got really famous and their name happens to be sounding a little bit Arab, all the Arabs want to just jump and say she's one of us. This idea of is it Arab or is it not Arab, sometimes it's something that they just see somebody who has an Arab name and they just get famous. So they're like, okay, it's one of us. This gives us credit.
But Doreen, you're talking about the Arabs. Are we Arabs?
I will tell you. Yes.
Well, yes, and these terms, yes, we are. Yes,
do we belong to this Arab, or we don't, or do we want to?
I mean, if we're going to go to the Lebanese dilemma now.
I have a problem with that.
Yeah, no, I do the same. I think that this dilemma is now on the table with all the change that's happening in the revolution. They're putting all this broad stereotyping one region into a pot that is called Arab, where it has a lot of other national identities, many kind of backgrounds that are maybe ethnic or whatever. Or I mean, you have Kurds, you have Armenians, you have. So I mean, I think that this is a bit deviating, and I think it's more interesting for design to start from a point that what is there organically on this space on planet, so to develop to a future design. You mentioned maybe nature, you mentioned curves, you mentioned so all those areas that are more related to the space, to the physical space, but also the space is an issue itself because people from these lands, they are now displaced and they are moving, and that's a huge question about space. Are people of these lands living here? Is his designs changing depending on this? This is where we go to the individual, and it's so important, and I think that the trend is about individual. I think it's about individual designs, and it's about individuality, bringing up individuality, which is all the driving force behind the change.
Can I just
That's
make a
my own
comment?
opinion.
Listen, I think the individual creativity and what they're saying is so important, but I think in order to create an identity, let's go back to the Zaha Hadid example. Say she has a design aesthetic that she's developed. Say if a group of other architects start to follow a similar trend, then it becomes more than an individual design, it becomes a movement. Then a movement slowly can become adapted to a cultural identity. That's how it starts. If you just look at pure at the individual on its own, everybody doing something discreetly, not working together, then that's when things become scattered and you don't have a focus in terms of what's happening. It's when there's a networking between these individuals, which are each creative, but they create a movement together. They sit down, we agree that we're going to have this movement. We're not trying to create a cultural identity or design or whatever, but let's do something together. Let's think on the same wavelength. Then that grows, and then that goes into an identity which you can attach to a culture, to a nation, to a region, to whatever. But
I'll give you a very small example I've been personally through, okay? For about 5 years I've been working with palm branches, okay? A material that is abundant in my country, but not just in my country. We're talking from Iraq all the way to Africa, which exists. Since I started working with it, in the beginning it was me, it was reflecting me, my past, my history. It's me, I don't want anybody to touch it or come close to it. So that changed, that became interesting when I started opening the doors and allowing people to see what I started creating out of it. And people from all over, not just stopping in Iraq, it branched out, would come and look at my piece and say, oh my God, I see my farm, which is gone in Iraq. Or somebody else would say, oh, this reminds me of the beautiful dates in Tunis. And this is so Arabic, so regional for us. We all can connect and feel and feel very passionate about, because of what it means maybe to our past. People are looking at it as a fuels for us from the palm tree. So to me, it's, I think, a material, yes, can play a big part, but it also can be really relating to us. We haven't been really using what we have and showing the world, like bamboo now is taking over the world. Yes, it is very, abundant, grows very fast, very ecological. And I will always say a bamboo is very Asian to me. Although in design, it can become so adapted to any design. I can take a bamboo, because all who saw my work when I first exhibited it, Emiratis who have farms, stood and said, wow, who did this beautiful bamboo work? Oh, where is the artist? Let's find him. And I'm in front of them. They can't see me at all. Why? Because they related to it as something they don't relate to, and then they realized, oh my God, this is the palm. This is you. So this is it. We need to start, doing those small things that we take for granted and really showing it off. Yes, do I want other designers from the region to start working with the material to see what I've done and research and experimentation is? Yes, but yes, I also want a bit of credit for what I've done to start with. But this is where we're not sharing. Also, Arabs in general, okay?
Yeah.
We don't share.
We know what you're going to say.
We don't teach. We keep to ourselves, and that is killing us. And this is the case, I think, everywhere. When I start teaching anybody anything, they go, what do you have in it? Why? Oh, this is too strange. So we have to change in many directions to create this, product, this identity within what we wear, own, buy. It's through changing many sides of who and what we are.
Invest time and effort into giving workshops to other people, taking time talking to people who might be their fans or young students who want to learn from them. Also, Angelique did a great thing this year to actually give a tour of Bush Hamud to show all the craftsmen what they're doing.
when we gather in the same place, we have all different culture, but we still have the same identity. You know, we are related with them. That's when we decide to know who we are. The problem that we face, it's the problem of the location. So we have to do 3 different types, which is the desert, semi-desert, and the coastline. So it's because you have a dip in the land. So it's not, you cannot tell people, okay, you are in the coastline or the beach line, you have that kind of big window, but you are making the same, and the people like in the dams or in the south.
But
At least you know.
It's all about adaptation
It's
and
about
use.
knowing. It's about taking the pride of
So
knowing all these and adapting
So
them.
they are putting their doors from outside to be very simple, very normal, but when you go inside, you see all this amazing
Same in Lebanon.
work in Lebanon as well. So because they don't want to show the house from outside.
That connect is what makes design applicable to the consumers.
People in a collective having the same thing to say.
Yes.
If
Yes,
if you reference the past too much, then you're stuck in the same sort of patterns. But all the art movements have been a result of a group of individuals having more to say than just the design or the art that they're creating. You know, they have an ethos, let's say, that they as a collective connects them to one another and it ties them to one another. They all have something to say as a result of, say, fascism or monarchy or something. They're all coming together to make a statement. It can be in design, it can be in fashion, it can be in art or whatever. But
So that point about not believing in design identity but believing in good design, the thing that makes me uncomfortable with that is that it feels like the way in which it feels like, dare I say, a version of colonialism. So it feels like a sort of expanding adoption of that which is good design into this thing that is still emanating from the West. And the way that I've seen that in the last 10 years in contemporary art is it just behaves like an amoeba, and it kind of absorbs things that are going on in that sort of postmodernist. You can have lots of different things and they'll all be contemporary, but that kind of absorption into good design feels like it gets in the way of that emotional connection and that stuff that comes up from elsewhere, because it feels like it's trying to create a sort of a universal.
So the idea of good design really started when after the Bauhaus and all of these, movements in design, there sort of became like this 10 commandments of what good design is. And it had a lot to do with functionality and sustainability, and it was kind of all of the emotional production, industrialization. So all of the emotional things that you're talking about, all the things that might give some product or piece of furniture some flair, were disregarded as something that wasn't really useful or functional.
Okay.
So yes, this is also something that we need to consider, because that has changed. I mean, industrialization has also failed in so many ways. It's created a lot more problems that people didn't maybe really anticipate. So it's a difficult time to find a balance. I definitely agree.
Yeah, but also it's related always with the place. For instance, when we start doing something like design guideline for the urban and the architecture buildings in Libya, we faced a problem with the location. We need to define. It's an old story. It's like an old war with myself. When I see what's my identity. My father is a Libyan. My mom is Moroccan. My wife is Serbian. Most of my cousins there lives in Europe. Okay, aunts. So when we are gathering each summer in my grandma's house, we have.
Which is where?
Morocco. Okay, Casablanca, but we have cousins, German cousin, Spanish, British.
It's a small UN.
Yeah, so.
What your definition of who you are just as a human, and this is what I am today, is a very contemporary one, just because of the harshness of what goes underneath, related to politics or whatever. I don't think we should just define it with where and who we are and that's it.
Why does Arabia still resonate with Hassan Fatih? What did Hassan Fatih do in design that Zaha Hadid or Rem Koolhaas did for his design that had resonated them with it today?
Yes. So for Hassan Fatih, for instance, he starts from what we have. Like he go to his design even start with different from the coastline, and then from the south, and once it's close to the river and far from the river. So basically, it's related with the need of the space. Okay, and plus the society needs as well. The society, this is one of the things that really I feel sorry for Hassan Fatih because society didn't accept that. They start to fight him. They reject the idea of that because this is another thing you need to deal with. People they will never leave the air condition and they feel safe in the concrete house. And then you tell them come to live in the mud. I have my own experience with I start to build the houses in the mountain in the east of Libya using the seaweed. Okay, but everybody will say I cannot live inside. Where is the concrete?
The halawi, I don't know, the sweets based with the sesame liquid whiteware. And in Lebanon we buy it in those plastic boxes or in kilos. I was once on a visit in Amsterdam, I think, and I bought what was it called, Mediterranean sweet, and it was sold as a bar, as a chocolate bar. And I think this is a good design where someone thought, I think it's Israeli, unfortunately, but I mean, so it is this. So someone had thought about branding a product that is a resource in Lebanon, or a national product, if I can call it a national product, in a different concept that brands it as and it was branded Mediterranean sweets. And I was thinking, I didn't know it was inside it, and I thought, let's try this Mediterranean sweet. What is it? And the whole concept of transforming a product that is from a certain country into a consumer product.
Yeah.
It's the way how they sell the stuff. For instance, in Tripoli, because my family basically from Benghazi, but I live in Tripoli. When I go to buy meat, I never use money to buy meat. You know why? Because I'm asking for half kilo. Society there, nobody will buy half kilo. So it's like they thought that I'm begging them to give me
What do they buy?
half sheep, half cow, half cow, just make it. Yeah. So when I told like I need 300 grams minced meat, he just looked and said, go. I have my limit. Don't worry, come on, go. And if you need something, come back here. Yeah. So each time when I come, he would grab some chicken and I don't know what, put in and he just give it to me like he's doing a charity. We opened Roshma, for instance, the art cafe. So a lot of people they start to point on us like we are trying to destroy the society through opening a place to let people speak free about art. Some people still thinking art it's something comes from Western culture, which is not. I mean, henna, for instance, is an art.
Yeah.
But for them, henna is not an art. This is something you should do for a certain time.
The idea of
Creating
design
awareness.
doesn't exist, but the idea of function,
Exactly.
you don't even question because it's there.
Yes. So basically, I bet even in Lebanon that you are designing something and people they understood it the wrong way. They can even not to deal with you, but they will try to shut you down.
Yeah.
They think it's you are coming with, because in Libya now everything they will do, they will put you as somebody Gaddafi's true supporter, or you are working for Israeli or for Americans. Okay, Americans help us. So, but because they think it goes later on after 10 years from now, he will lose his pride. You don't need two spaces, one's called women guest room and men guest room, because it doesn't exist. It's not allowed to have a man in the house. They will kick me out. Even though you have 2 rooms, but it never happened that 2 of them they become at the same time. I'm trying now.
But design does change utility.
But design does change. But
Absolutely.
but for instance, what I'm trying to tell them for okay, at least make one space, but it can be reusable, like multi-use space. My role here it's how to translate what he wants to an architecture.
So this idea that design changes culture, would anyone
And culture changes design.
and culture,
Yes.
okay? So
Design
it's
is
a cycle.
translated.
Design is a reflection, from what I understood, it is a reflection of our times. It's taking maybe what is history, like you said, it may not be about history, but it's a reflection of times.
design changes culture and culture changes design. Design reflects the current times and design helps us understand the culture. Do you mean the culture or the spaces?
Culture.
Culture, the identity
Okay.
itself. Like I can go in your house and I know who you are.
Yeah. So design is a recognition tool, so we can see the things like whether it's palm leaves or Mediterranean sweets or whatever. So it's in a way it's a shorthand that helps us see stuff and see us relate to it. Help me here, I'm struggling a bit. Design is a language.
It's a
There's
shorthand,
many
it's a signature.
Okay.
Visual language for the space maybe. It's like something
I'm
like
going to capture a few of these. Okay, so design is an aid to the packaging, the recognition,
And the communication.
and the communication. The end point of which, the reason that stuff matters is so we can see the things that we're relating, that we relate to and that make sense to us.
I like the idea that we are trying to make friends in this
Okay.
event. So the friend that is taking us from the functionality and industrialization that is not enough, that the need for emotion is
Yes.
also
Yeah, very
Yeah.
important.
The bits that I think we do agree on are design changes culture, culture changes design. Design reflects the current times, and design helps you understand cultural identity.
I really think this is very strong because we're moving from the dogmatic approach for identity to the
New
appreciation of time.
Yes. Yeah, it's very critical.
Okay.
Design as a movement, as an ideology, as a connect, where we have to include other like-minded thinkers,
Okay.
and we also, what he extremely importantly pointed out, that we also have to invite our audiences and create recognition and awareness for that design, so that it's not offensive.
Okay, so design is a movement. Okay, so design is movement, development, and progress.
Yeah, it's a movement that it's totally changed by the time.
Yeah.
Design is a verb, which I really like the most because
Okay.
people tend to think of design always as the end thing that people are seeing, but designers and architects always know of it as the process, which is iterative that never really stops.
Why does it matter that we foster the development of this as a contemporary Middle Eastern thing?
Other people to understand what's this region about. And if they will see like why we are wearing hijab, why we are going 5 times to pray, or why we are going to beach, why we are opening, why the reason of opening those buildings like this, or why we have those minarets in the city. So people when they come, or people when they see us from outside of the window, they can see, they can understand.
Design is the differentiator. It's that value addition of design that makes Middle Eastern products into something that is, like we rightly said, the packaging. Otherwise, it will just remain a sweet in Lebanon, which is being monetized by someone in Amsterdam. But if you don't have design and you don't have the packaging and you don't have the ideology that takes it there, then you're just going to be product servicer.
It brings it back into the region rather than feeling that it is dissipated.
Also the economic value.
Economic
Yeah,
value, that's what
it's
I'm
Also
saying.
give
It's a
you some
value.
kind of
Design changes the economic flow in the region,
Yeah.
and it allows us to harness the economic powerhouse that we are to create that feedback into the region rather than seeing that money flow out. And I'm not saying that you should close all the doors to trade and investment, but I think that it takes some work to say, look, there's real value.
could be done.
Yeah.
This is how it will be done.
There's a need to create communities around resources.
Okay.
Sharing
Like
ideas.
each country would be special in a unique brand or a unique product that would assist the other country in something. And just,
Uniqueness.
yeah.
Identifying the needs
Okay.
and designing
Yeah.
stuff that can sell easily.
But you have to have a design, sort of a design consultancy, design engagement, design business development, design.
The differences that were very clear between what they had and what the region has is that there is no strong presence of the ego, because they talked about mentoring and accepting other designers and sharing a lot of information and a lot of talent and a lot of even expertise.
Why it matters that we foster the development of a contemporary Middle Eastern design aesthetic. That's choice number one. Choice number two is what does it take to support and encourage the development of this aesthetic. That's choice two. And choice three is, I suppose, how do you increase the reach of that, I think is the